Bienvenido al podcast worth the calorías. Un gran horneado británico. Hola, mi amor.
Hola! I'm blown away.
That's the extent of my Spanish. Thank you very much, Google Translate.
Muy bien.
Muy bien. Cuidado con el gato.
You wouldn't think I had a GCSE in Spanish because I basically have forgotten most of it.
Yeah, but you have other languages that have pushed that out, so
yes.
I think you're allowed.
Yeah, maybe.
I should have also looked up what Welcome to Mexican Week. Welcome to
Bienvenida
al Weekes Mexicano.
I was about to say Il Settimana Mexicano, but that's probably Italian or some kind of... I sometimes say I speak fluent European because I think my French will merge into my Italian, which merges into my Spanish.
Bienvenida a la Semana Mexicana.
Bienvenida.
Yes, I don't have an accent.
Bienvenida.
Bienvenida.
Who knows?
Mexican Week.
Mexican Week indeed.
A very good week because we like Mexican food, of course.
Yes.
Previous years have had Danish Week, various others. This was the first one I was like, oh, interesting.
And definitely interesting because this is not to say that there isn't that the Mexicans do not have a great baking history or tradition. It's just that it's not one I know about. So that for me made it fascinating.
Yeah. The hotter the country, the less likely they are to have baked products in the way that we think of cake and would do cake, and particularly the need for heavier, stodgier things to help you get through the cold months.
Yes.
In the same way, there's a reason we have all this grains that we grow.
Yeah.
So interesting.
What did you make of it?
I really liked it. I think we'll come to the technical challenge in a bit, but I think the technical challenge is, as ever, not as good on the international weeks.
It wasn't really a baking challenge, was it? I mean, obviously there was a baked element to it, but if you stripped out all of the other bits, that baked element is very well. I'll ask you later whether it was straightforward.
When we get to it, because it's not even baked. But this show isn't about pure baking. Whilst it's called the Bake Off, it's about the sweet end of kitchen things. This technical doesn't feed into it, but donuts and baking.
No.
So,
and just Anyway, we'll get there.
We kicked off with 12 mini... No, that's episode 1. Mini sandwich cakes, that doesn't sound right. We kick off with 12 pan dulce.
Pan dulce, sweet bread.
Sweetbreads.
Yeah, I didn't know this was a thing in Mexico. I was fascinated. I was especially fascinated by the very great similarities there were between the conchas and melon pan in Japan, because they look virtually identical. To the extent I spent ages reading about this afterwards, and ultimately they aren't quite identical, but they're very, very similar. And no one really knows why these two types of sweet bread have developed in such different areas of the world. But the best explanation I could find was actually both of them were imports from possibly Portuguese, possibly Spanish roots, so that they actually had their origins, potentially, I don't know, and I would welcome any feedback from someone that genuinely does know, but they possibly both had their origins somewhere more European, and that's how it's developed in Japan and Mexico separately. But yes, I thought that was a really good challenge. I thought it was a really interesting challenge.
I love the diversity of it.
Yes. And it was something different, obviously. It was because it's Mexican. But again, it had that feature which I really enjoy in the signatures, which is about taking a fairly plain canvas and allowing the candidates to paint it with their take on making a great flavour combination. Yes. So,
have you had melon pan?
I used to eat it all the time in Japan.
Is it melon pan?
No, I think the melon is... so it's called melon pan. There's no melon in it. I think it's the shape.
But melon as in we understand melon. It's not melon pan or something.
No, it's meron.
Okay,
but I think the naming comes from the fact that it's like a half a half moon.
So is that sort of slightly iced, crackling type?
Slightly. It's sweet, fluffy white bread with a slightly iced sugary, crispy top on it. Looks exactly like a very plain conchas does. And it's just a normal convenience store, as I used to call them in Japan, mystery bread product, because occasionally there'd be something weird in the middle. But I ate a lot of them. They were very,
nice.
100 yen, bit of a snack. It was very nice. Yeah, so, no, I thought it was really good. I thought it was interesting seeing how everyone put their different take on it. I suspect because it's something that they're not so familiar with, some of them maybe had more challenges than others. I don't think it was I don't think their bakes were universally well received by Paul and Prue.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a bit harsh, but
And particularly those ones with the cracklan.
Yes.
Too heavy on top, which implies, and I wonder if this is something to do with the process of proving and baking in a short space of time, because it does seem like they're supposed to be proofed for a very long time.
Yes, because it's an enriched dough, isn't it? And that needs quite a long proof.
Yeah.
So only having the technical signature, what do they get? Like 3 hours? 2.5 hours?
Yeah, I don't have a note of how long, but
the recipe that I had to go at, which we'll come on to in a second, the proofing time alone would probably be the two proofs. The first one is 2 hours at a minimum.
Right.
And the second proof is about an hour. So, and that was quite a simple contrast recipe. Well, relatively plain contrast recipe. And that requires at minimum 3 hours of proofing.
Right.
So I don't know that anyone could possibly get that easily.
Yeah, so it's using the warming drawer.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily the best way to prove your items, and then not having enough time for it. Yeah.
So,
And maybe they didn't expect them to go for contrast, because clearly there were other options as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was good.
Any that were made that particularly grabbed you?
I thought the filled ones sound interesting. Like
sort of even more bready donut.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I suspect that's because I thought you need a bit of extra flavour with it. Because, a sweet bread's nice. The sugary crusting on the top's nice. But it's not a very exciting bake. So I like the idea of them being filled.
Having something in them.
Did I remember someone filling it with sort of a salted caramelly thing? Or was that just what I would have liked to have?
Yeah, James did coffee caramel oyster conchas. But I think the oyster was the thing on top.
The thing on top, yeah. That was it. Coffee caramel, his filling. That quite appealed to me. I felt. I mean, I didn't really feel the need to have the oyster on top. I think he was just showing off a bit there. But I liked the idea of the coffee caramel in the middle.
Did someone do? They were called rum tipsy ones or something.
Oh yes, I don't know if those were conchas. I think there was something
else.
Yeah,
it was one of the other options. That looked very nice, and I liked that they were slightly fun and wonky. And
yes, absolutely, yes, yeah. So it was interesting, and like, there's a lot of them that I'd quite like to try the eating of. Maybe the baking of, I guess, but yes, if we've got time. So I tried to have a go at the conchas. Right. And I got through the first proof.
Okay.
I am going to have another go at the conchas because once again, I think I knew at the point I was making it that our yeast was out of date, but I thought, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
That it's supposed to double in size, and that first proof, it maybe had risen a little bit, but it definitely not double in size. So I decided that actually, rather than then spend a frustrating time trying to bake bread that I knew was never going to be nice, I abandoned ship and put my dough in the bin. But I will give it a go another time. Let's draw a line under that.
Pledged for our listeners, we will draw a line under the yeast conversations that we have. We will get new yeast in.
Yes.
New yeast, please.
New yeast. Fresh yeast that we are confident in, rather than old yeast.
This felt like a good one because it felt like they were doing stuff that people would go, oh yeah, that looks like something to try.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas, again, when I look at some of the previous years like this, it's been, oh, well, that's unusual.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Technical challenge. Tacos.
Nom, 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 nom.
I'm a little mixed on this because if you told me there was a technical challenge on Mexican week, I feel like tacos would have been in the back of my head.
Yeah.
But that's because of my experience of the Bake Off and knowing it as a show, which you would hope all these people going on have watched all of it and made notes of flavour preferences and this kind of thing. But it does stand out because it is a meat-based one. So I'm wondering, is it that I saw in last week's, they said, a meat-based technical, and as soon as you know that, it's like, well, it's not going to be like an enchiladas or something. Maybe it's a burrito. I could have seen it being burritos, but actually taco felt like the most obvious.
Yeah. And to make the tortilla for a burrito is even more straightforward.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
So that's like that. That's the complaint that I've seen, and that I can kind of agree with. That yes, it is because the making of the tortilla shell was the absolute easiest thing. Some flour,
right.
Some of the masa harima, the corn flour.
Yep.
But not corn flour as we think of corn flour. The flour made from corn.
Okay.
So the yellow corn flour.
Right. Okay.
And add some water and mix it together, and then let it settle for half an hour, and then roll it out and press it under a casserole lid, and you've got your tortilla shell that you cook for a couple of minutes on either side.
Okay, I'm going to reverse my comments and say making the tortilla for a burrito and making the tortilla for a taco, equally straightforward.
I think so, absolutely. Baking is about a non-contact heat. Putting it in a hot place to bake something. This is a contact heat because you're putting it on a thing. It's not. But like I say, we also do stuff that's deep fried or fried, or so. It's just about the baking is the easy expression for it.
Yes.
But there were all the other elements, and I think I said last week that if this is what it was, I was going to be very interested in it because I love Mexican food. I love making Mexican food. I love eating Mexican food, and the idea of making the taco shell, and the tortilla, and the salsa, and the guacamole, and the fried beans, and the beef, all from scratch. Terrific. That was a very exciting challenge. And
it was a delicious eat. So thank you very much for a delicious dinner last night.
And it came together as a very, very nice meal.
It was lovely.
Together. There was plenty. It was filling, as it was. It was a whole range of different flavours. I appreciated the recipes. I've been a bit down on their recipes at times, and I will call out this one because it talked about needing, I don't have it in front of me, but hydrogen peroxide or something.
What?
No, let's look it up so I can say this.
I'm like, what did I eat?
So the recipe called out for needing calcium hydroxide.
Ooh, that's a bit scary sounding.
Which half a teaspoon of food safe calcium hydroxide, and I didn't look at whether you could get calcium hydroxide because you get the corn,
right?
Not corn flour, not flour made from corn. You get corn and calcium hydroxide, and you mix it and you do stuff with it, and eventually the skins come off the corn goes very soft, and then you mill it yourself.
Well, that sounds tedious.
And you leave it for 8 hours, and then you add some water and make some dough out of it.
That sounds super tedious.
Or you buy some pre-done stuff and then you make it.
Right.
And I will give them a shout out because they absolutely put on the recipe to do all these steps. Or if you're just using the masa harima, just mix it with some water and then you've got your dough.
Nice.
So, for once.
Okay.
And it all came in the right order of steps. So as I was reading it through, I'm like, well, I'm not doing this. When are you going to tell me what to do? And they did have the right thing in there. So
okay. That's good. Good recipe.
I'm hoping for more of that.
Yeah. So are there elements, or actually, would you make any of it again? Would you make all of it again? Are there just bits that you'd make again?
I really enjoyed making the tortillas.
Okay.
A little bit. We saw on the show that some of them didn't have the strength or the weight or the leverage to be able to flatten them. Actually, there were a couple of ours that were a bit thick because it was actually quite hard to flatten them more than they were getting flattened.
Right.
Because it is tough is not the right word. There's a really interesting bit in the recipe that is mix the flour with water until you have a dough that is neither sticky nor dry.
Ooh, that's quite a precision point.
Which means wet, but not sticky. Not sticky, not dry. So I end up with a thing where I'm like, well, it's not sticky. And it's clearly not dry. So this must be it. But
yeah.
But it was, as it turned out, a really nice way to describe it. But it then did mean that, yes, it's a bit tough. So when you're pressing down on it, actually having to put a lot of weight and a lot of pressure on it, and shuffle the thing to try to spread it out as much as possible. And with each of those balls, I got about a 12 centimetre thing, which is what I was supposed to get. So that's right. So I would love to do it again, but I'm a little nervous of trying to do it for like an enchilada shell.
Yes.
Enchilada tortilla, because they're
big,
20
right?
centimetres, probably more, maybe. So I don't know whether they would need actually rolling. I'm not sure how easy rolling them out, but again, that makes me interested in doing it. And when I opened the flour, this smell came out of it that was just, this is the smell of tortillas, of tortilla crisps, but like really nicely done tortilla crisps, this kind of thing. So again, maybe it's even, can I find out how to make tortilla crisps? That would be interesting.
Well, having done some sort of shallow frying of cut up tortillas for that crispy element on top of that chicken soup that I made the other week, I think it's definitely doable. I think it's something we could do in our deep fat fryer. Yeah,
because again, I'm sort of interested in trying this flour while we've got it.
Absolutely. Well, let's not just leave it in the drawer to go off.
Exactly. However, I made the tortilla, I made the salsa, I made the refried beans, I made the guacamole.
Yeah.
And I marinated the steak and cooked the steak and then sliced it up. There is no need for anyone to make their own salsa and tortilla shells. I don't think there's any need to make refried beans, but I'm not a huge fan of refried beans at the best of times. Yeah. And I think these were fine, but very bland by comparison with how flavoursome the rest of it was.
Yep.
And it was interesting to have made guacamole, because I know other people who've made guacamole, and I've, one of those things that's interesting to try. I'm not sure there's necessarily a need to make that either.
Yeah.
That's the one bit that I would say of all those. Yeah. So I'm going to do more tortillas because we have the flour.
Yeah.
I'm never going to make my own salsa.
Fair enough.
Again, I think just buying a jar of salsa would have been probably better in the end, actually, because it would have spread nicer and rather than being chunks.
Yeah.
Guacamole was interesting enough to make, and I'd do it if we had some avocado left over. Fine. Definitely not doing refried beans. But the marinade on the steak. Oh, that was lovely.
Really lovely.
Cooking the steak was delicious. It sliced so nicely, so easily. So you end up with these nice strips of steak on your taco, which were easy to bite through. It wasn't chewy because it was overdone or anything. That, I think, we're definitely going to do again. That was a very nice steak.
Really nice.
With a very nice, spicy, but with touches of spice.
Yeah. Yes, no, absolutely. And I'd be interested to try the marinade on different cuts of steak as well.
Yeah.
Because Bavette's just not one... I mean, it was lovely.
Yeah.
But it's not one I've thought to buy before.
And the marinade was all sorts of garlic, oregano, several different types of chili, some sugar, some salt. It was just huge numbers of different flavours coming together. So, again, you can tailor that if you want a bit sweeter, a bit saltier, a bit spicier.
Nice. And was it a dry marinade?
Yeah. Yeah, literally just dump everything put everything in a bowl together, stir it all together, and then I poured some of it over and spread it around with a spoon, flipped the steaks over, poured the rest over, spread it around with a spoon, let it sit in a drawer for a good few hours.
I'm just thinking, because it could be potentially for... I'm always thinking, how can I make nicer food midweek when I've got no time? But, you could potentially make the marinade up at the weekend.
Just have a jar of it.
And just have a jar, have a jar of it. Not to last for ages.
No.
But I bet it might be nice on chicken strips.
Yeah.
As a sort of fajita alternative.
I think it worked really well.
That's good. Can I just say?
Go ahead.
I know you said you weren't sure about making guacamole again. Not sure it's worth the point. I really, really enjoyed having the extra tomato and stuff like that within the guacamole to give it an extra, just an extra texture. So I'd have happily sacked off the salsa, but had that sort of extra lumpy, freshly done guacamole. It was really lovely.
That's very fair. It was nice with that because it had a whole tomato and a quarter of an onion. It should have been a red onion, but we had a quarter white onion left over from the other bit, so frankly it's going to be a white onion.
Absolutely.
It's supposed to have some chili in it, but because there was a lot of chili in some of the other stuff, I'm like, this is the one I'm going to leave the chili out of.
Yep.
And that was the other thing. Actually, making changes to this, this is our increasing comfort with doing things. I made an absolute change to all this. In fact, I made two absolute changes. One of which was I left out any trace of coriander from any recipe because coriander's disgusting. Frankly, to borrow a phrase from my sister. And I served it with tequila, which I think improved it immensely.
I enjoyed the tequila shots, absolutely.
Yeah, so
it was good.
A very pleasant thing. A thing I am delighted to have done.
Yep.
From me. Am I going to do it again? I'm not going to do every step of it again, but definitely the meat portion. Go and have a look at that recipe because it was really good.
Nice.
Yeah. How did they do on the show?
I can't remember who came top. And I don't think it made any difference as ever with the technical.
Well, top was Maxi.
Oh, yeah.
who
yes,
did
yes.
get Star Baker,
Yep.
and who had done very well. And I think she was head and shoulders above everyone else this week, because
Yes.
Shabira came second on it.
Yeah.
And I think did well enough, but didn't, quite stand out in the same way. And bottom was James and Rebs and Carol.
Yeah. Yeah.
Partially because they'd filled it incorrectly, they'd served it incorrectly, some people had overcooked their shells. And it's hard because certainly over here, shells are quite often hard shells.
Yes, they are. I don't know that I don't know if I've had a soft taco.
I think we've had
UK.
soft taco shells when we've been to actual Mexican restaurants.
Yeah.
But when you go to Tex-Mex or your TGI Fridays, or even you're buying the stuff in the shop, I think they're hard shells.
Right.
And I think it was better having that pliability to them. Because as just a final thing, when I did them, I then put them over rolling pins. They did get a bit of a curve to them. They didn't set in that position. You could absolutely move them, but it meant it was a little bit easier for when you're serving it to know sort of what's the portion you're looking for. That made that a little bit easier. And I think some people just went wildly in different directions on some of the flavours. But I can't think that anyone did anything very problematic in terms of the steak.
No. Carol chopped hers up and mixed it in before she cooked it, which I get, because that's how you do fajitas.
Yeah, that was the thing she did, wasn't it? She chopped up the beef so it didn't cook to a very tender place.
Whereas I think the thing to do with bavette steak is apparently, having read up on it in the car this morning, is apparently cook it as one and actually let it rest for about 20 minutes.
Really let it rest,
before slicing it up.
Yeah, because we left ours to rest for quite a while. So when we finally sliced it sliced so easily. Yes. It was lovely.
Yeah, so I think...
that's a good discovery from it.
I think accidentally... We left it, it was the perfect thing to do with that cut of meat. Yes.
Yeah, a good challenge.
Yeah.
I can see it not having been churros because I think they've done churros as a technical before. And I'm not sure you do something that needs massive proving as a technical challenge.
Well, no, even less time, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. So
that's good.
And our final one was Tres Leches cake.
Okay, have you ever had a Tres Leches cake?
No.
Neither have I. And where does one get one? Because that looks exactly I love a really moist, juicy cake. I love condensed milk. Right. That I'm just this feels like it would be 100% up my street. But having never had one makes me think, well, where does one get one? Because I'm not sure I'm that enthused about making it, but I would like to eat some.
I'd be interested in making one. And yeah, it's supposed to be a showstopper, so absolutely making multiple levels, multiple layers, some sort of design to it. I get it. Yeah. I would be interested in doing one more for the sort of soaking and then dressing. Yes. Covering it in some way and seeing how it comes out. That's a technique I'm interested to try. Do you know what you would do as your 3 layers and flavours?
No.
Okay.
I think for me there'd be some alcohol involved.
Right.
I think a nice sweet rum.
Okay.
Might add itself well to a Tres Leches cake.
Okay.
But other than that, that's as far as my thoughts were. Simply, I would like to eat one. I would like to eat one done well.
Okay.
By someone who knows what they're doing. And yes, maybe a bit of rum. How about you? Have you thought more on it?
I have 3 flavours that, when you say 3 flavours of Mexico, would absolutely scream. I would have my enchilada flavour, I would have my burrito flavour, and I'd have my taco flavour cake. And that would... No, I'm joking, of course.
It's a shame you can't listen to the sound of my face.
I would have the top layer as some sort of maybe salted caramel.
Okay.
Salted milk, nice. Maybe. The middle layer is some sort of lemon flavour. And the bottom level is some sort of lime flavour. To have your salt, lemon and lime time. Salt, lemon and lime time tequila. Tequila flavoured cake without, and then serve tequila on the side of it.
I like it.
That would have been it just as soon as I said it, I'm like, oh, well, someone must do this. This is the most obvious, easiest thing.
Nice.
No? Okay, just
no. I think I was too busy going, oh, nice milky cake.
I was a little surprised that they said flavours of Mexico, because this feels like the absolute thing where they say, right, the Mexican style is soaked cakes.
Yes.
and very moist cakes in whatever flavour combination you would like to do it, and let people push it out and do the flavours of their own home, flavours they know.
Absolutely.
But is that to stop them doing raspberry, vanilla and chocolate? Something very easy.
Yeah.
Don't know. No, don't know. But I also like it as a challenge because it's so fraught with peril.
Well, I mean, you could just end up with a pile of mush, right?
Yeah. And I think you would be... That's the worst outcome, it's a pile of mush. But that then makes you put not enough in, it's a bit too dry.
Which I think what most of them did.
Yeah.
There were very... who there's one of them, I think, I remember having the right consistency. Was it Dawn?
Yes, because Dawn, they absolutely said was
yes,
incredible. They loved Dawn's, so...
Yeah, and I don't think anyone else got it
no.
quite moist enough. I think everyone backed off on putting too much liquid in.
Which I think is what I would do as well. I would err on the side of caution for that one.
Yeah. Which is why I'm not that enthusiastic about baking one myself, because I think this is a difference between the two of us. I want to try and learn how to make things that I think I could do again and again,
right? Yeah,
as opposed to just try something for the experience of expanding my technique range. Which is why I will do that conchas.
Sure, okay.
I will.
Okay,
I will.
No,
one
believe
day.
You.
One day,
I believe you. It's the listeners.
Do you know what? I tell you what I did learn from that is that, maybe not learn, but it re-emphasised my thought that bread making would totally fit into your life if you're super organised. But you have to be super organised to get the little... Because there's lots of steps. Mm-hmm. Each step doesn't take that much time, but you have to plan in a really long time period over which to do it because of all the proofing.
Yeah. Shabira used sweet corn in her signature and showstoppers.
I love the fact that she's such a risk taker. I mean, I'm not sure I want to eat it, but the showstopper, the sweet corn cake. It's like, really?
Well, there was also a comment on Twitter about me talking about having sweet corn on pizza last week. And I would throw out to anyone listening who might be thinking about it, sweet corn is a great addition to basically every meal. Anything where you throw vegetables in, any time you have vegetables on the side, vegetables on the top of something, sweet corn really works. Throw it in your lasagna, throw it in your stew, throw it on the side or something.
I'm not disputing this.
You better not be.
But what I would say is that I don't know many people who like sweet corn more than you do. just putting it out there. And if you haven't heard it already, you need to look up the Corn song that seems to be going around
the Corn song. Is it by the band Corn?
No.
Okay.
No. Although that would
their albums up there,
that would be a bit terrifying. But like on the various Instagram reels, which I think are all stolen from TikTok, there was a whole phase of people doing
the
memes
Corn song.
To I don't know if it's called the Corn song, but it's like, it's corn. And it's genuinely about sweet corn.
Right.
I think it's a song written for you.
Should I put a clip in here?
Why not?
Maybe.
It's corn. A big corn Vietnam.
Maybe. See if we can get taken down from YouTube from copying people's music.
Exactly.
No, I would be... You're absolutely right. I love sweet corn. I think it's a great flavour because I have quite a sweet tooth. I would be interested in trying the sweet corn cake, and I think it would work.
Yeah.
In the same way we talk about beetroot and carrots and other things going into cakes. And particularly because I baked with corn flour this week, and it worked really well and was very easy.
When we went to Japan, did we ever have the sweet corn soup?
Not that I know of.
No, this was an error on my part. Maybe I hadn't been quite as fully alert to your love of corn. Yeah. But yeah, that's quite a standard tin soup in Japan, like a sort of sweet corn. Yeah. Like we have cream of tomato. It's like cream of sweet corn.
I'll give it a go.
It was a little bit sweet for me, but
maybe I would.
But it might be right up your street.
No, I quite like you say that she's prepared to commit to what she thinks is the right thing to do, and I think she pulls it off. I think so far nothing's gone awry for her, which we'll see if she can keep that up. Good on her.
I mean, she's definitely a strong second half of the season candidate.
Yeah,
she's not going to be in the first wave of leaving.
There is a sense that we are seeing Maxi, Janusz and Shabira as the 3 standout, really capable bakers.
Agree.
We're sort of expecting them in the final.
Agree.
And then there's a few others who are good, but haven't quite stood out. I think Sandra is clearly very good.
Yeah.
But
I think Dawn's a dark horse.
yeah, I'm wondering if Dawn is growing into it.
Mm.
Is sort of learning to trust herself and her instincts, because you need instincts in this.
Yeah.
So if you can trust her experience to come to it, maybe she will.
Because I can't remember her doing a bad bake so far. I think she's done a couple of really good bakes.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the macaron
Yep.
yo-yos and this tres leche cake. And then everything else is kind of middling.
Yeah.
Which gives her room to grow from.
Yeah. Her stuff has been, I think, generally very good.
Yes.
You would understand her being a second half of the series
Agree.
type of person. It was Rebs and James who went home, with Carol possibly.
Carol was
been cast out, but she didn't, because 2 of them were leaving.
Yes.
I was a little surprised at James. I'm not quite surprised that he's gone quite so early, because I think he's got a couple of things he does well, but the rest of it isn't his forte.
He can't pipe his way out the whole season.
And this was not an episode to get to coast on your piping, I think, or on your decoration.
Yeah.
Rebs, I just don't think she's quite gotten to grips with it in the episodes that we've had.
No, I mean,
And maybe
I'm sure
been
she's
ill.
a lovely girl. I'm sure. Clearly she's a lovely girl. She was the right choice to go this week.
Yeah,
and I don't think anything we've seen in the previous weeks would challenge it. I think so.
And I feel like Carol has also struggled in each week so far. So you're sort of feeling like, is this sort of the end for her now? And is this the extra week she potentially would have got? Or next week is the extra week she would have gotten?
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
I liked it as an episode. I think this was
episode.
a good theme, by comparison to some of the other random other country themes that we've had.
I would say, having had a delicious meal of taco last night, it is most definitely trumping the Evilskiver.
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 Yes, with that pan that we still
have
on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And it's most definitely better than cooking pita bread over an open fire in the garden.
Absolutely.
So
next week is desserts.
Mm.
So going to be probably lots of very creamy things, I would imagine.
See?
Be interesting to see what comes.
Nice.
You want to try conchas again?
I do want to try conchas again. I don't think I'm going to have time during the week because life. But we're at home both days next weekend at the moment. Who knows what plans will happen. So maybe conchas will appear next weekend. But what I might be tempted to do is make the dough on Friday night and then have that first with some brand spanking new yeast. Brand new yeast.
Fresh from the yeast factory.
Exactly. But then let the proof happen overnight.
Right.
Without any sort of warm cabinet or anything. Just stick it in an unheated proving drawer overnight on the Friday night. And then maybe you'll have freshly baked conchas for your breakfast.
Oh, that would be lovely.
On a Saturday morning.
Breakfast conchas.
Nice. Yes.
So we'll see you next week for desserts week.
Mm-hmm. I always see you for desserts week.
I was about to say sayonara. That's not Spanish.
Adios.
Mes amigos.
Hasta luego.
Cuidado.
Cuidado con el gato.